Everyone has some idea of inalienable rights, but where do they come from? And what do they mean? I'm Tony Ibbott, and this is a beach just north of Los Angeles. That's the Pacific Ocean. And down here are lots of little beady eyes looking at me. Here they are. Sand crabs. I like these creatures. They're harmless to me. This one's not going to sink his fangs into me, or inject venom into me, or wrap his coils around me and strangle me, or tear my arm off. They're friendly little things. Now when you look at one of these, you see that it's brown on top and white underneath. And you see he's got eyes on this end, and he likes to go backwards. So what do these creatures do to stay alive? Because how do they survive? Because after all, that's the ultimate question for every living species. Life or death. If you don't take the right steps to survive, you're going to die, and that's the end of you. And when I drop him into a bucket of water, he wakes up and disappears immediately. It's gone. Same color as the sand. You see those little eyes poking up. Now when I put him on the sand, he makes a run for the ocean. He's looking for the soft sand where he can dig in. Here comes a wave, just about here. Here he goes. He's almost there. The next wave will cover him up. And he's gone. Here's an even more dramatic experiment. I've got a bucket full of them here, and you see there are the waves. I'll just tip them out, and you watch what they do. They're all running down to the ocean as fast as they can go, and then they disappear into the sand. As soon as the wave is gone, they're gone too. The live ones, that is. I've got a couple of dead ones here. Look at this. Goners. So they dig themselves into the sand until just their little eyes are poking out and their front legs, and when a wave washes over them and retreats, they scoop plankton into their mouths. So they need to move around all the time because the sands are shifting, the tide is coming and going, so they come out of the sand and go up the beach a little bit and down the beach a little bit, and they try to stay right here where the waves lap, where the sand is soft and wet, and they can dig in and they won't dry out, because if they go up the beach, up there, they're going to dry out in the sand and the sun and die. And if they go down this way, they're going to get eaten by something bigger. I'm going to empty it into this little depression I've made. You can see them all going in. They all wake up and they all come streaming out, thinking, oh, a wave has come by. We're too high up on the beach, we need to get down. They also get eaten by a lot of seagulls and other seabirds who dig around in the sand and eat them. So they combat that by multiplying rapidly. They lay millions of eggs, most of which get eaten before they mature. And the ones that do survive are the ones that are fittest, meaning that they're the right color, sand color. They don't stand out, and they're healthy, and they can reproduce. They know what to do. Well, I don't think they actually do know. I think if we dissected one and we found its brain, we'd find that it was hardwired to do exactly what it does. To use its bodily structure and the raw elements of nature, and it really has no choice about it. It just has to do that. If it doesn't do what it does, if it doesn't bury itself in the sand and it doesn't eat plankton, it's going to die. It's going to get eaten by something else, or it'll dry out in the sun. It doesn't occur to it that it could do something else, such as chisel away at this cliff behind me and build a road there, or make an iPhone with a color video camera built into it. It's perfectly content just living day to day, burrowing in the sand. Nature of theirs, this burrowing in the sand and eating plankton, it's a requirement for their survival. They have to do that or they die. So this requirement never goes away. I can't say let's alter their requirement. Let's say that one of these sand crabs has to fly up to the top of a mountain and build a nest in a tree. Well, now we're talking about a different species. We're talking about vultures or something. You might say that this requirement to live the way they do and do the things they do is inalienable. That which cannot be alienated. You can't take it away. You can't alter it. That's just the way it is. Look at all the other creatures around us. We find that they all have the same sort of thing. The sharks out in the ocean, the whales, the birds, the mammals, everything, they all have this requirement to live a particular way in a particular habitat, because if they don't, they die. Now, it's pretty obvious that my species doesn't fit that pattern. I don't have a bodily structure that dictates how I should live. And all I've got is this, the opposing thumb, and I've got lungs and a few other things that make it convenient to live here on this earth, but nothing that tells me exactly how I should live. There's nothing that says bury yourself in the sand. There's nothing that says fly up to a tree and build a nest or anything like that. So, how do I survive? What should I do? I don't know. I have to think about that. I have to use this massive brain of mine to figure out how I should live, what I should do, how I'm going to survive. I have to think about it. I have to do something, do some thinking. I know, I'll make a list. I'll make a list, I'll try a few things, and I'll put them on the list as things that I should do or should not do. By the way, the sun is getting pretty hot. I better put some sunscreen on or find some shade. And while I'm walking across this sand, I better watch out for the sharp rocks so I don't cut my feet. And I'm feeling a little bit hungry. There's a restaurant a few miles down the road. I think I'll stop in there and buy some lunch. Did you get that? That's my list. I'm making a code, a list to live by, rules to live by, code of morality. Do this, don't do that, and here's why. The list is actually enormous, but it can be reduced to fundamentals. I need to think for myself. I need to act in my rational self-interest. I need to be honest and recognize reality for what it really is. And I need to produce. If I'm going to buy lunch, I've got to have something to trade for it, which means I've got to produce something that's of value to others. I can trade, such as money, but I can trade for food, gasoline, and everything else that I need. And, of course, I want to be happy. Otherwise, what's the point? Here we get to the very interesting part, because I don't have any natural defense mechanisms. I don't have fangs, claws, hooves, all of those things. I survive by thinking. And the very interesting part is that I must not be prevented from acting according to my judgment. Because if I am, I'm going to die. It's that simple. So whatever it is that I decide is right for me to do, I need to do it without hindrance, without being interfered with by any other human being. And we all have that requirement. All of us human beings. This requirement for the freedom to act on my own judgment doesn't mean that I need others to do things for me. It means that I need them to leave me alone. And this requirement for the freedom to act on our judgment is inalienable. That which cannot be alienated. It cannot be changed, altered, taken away. It just is what it is. We must think, we must be free to act on our thinking, on our judgment, or we're going to die. It's inalienable. That's all there is to it. This requirement for thinking. This is why man is called the rational animal. It's not so much that we can think, it's that we must think. This is a principle that covers all areas of my life. Every decision, every action I take, I need to do it unmolested. We call this the principle of inalienable rights. You often hear people claim that rights are granted to us by fill in the blank. Our government, our society, some supernatural power. But think about that. If rights are granted to us, they can be taken away, they can be altered, they can be revoked. Those aren't rights. Those are permissions. We often hear that rights come with responsibilities or duties towards others, and we've somehow accepted this. But that's a threat. That says that these rights can be revoked if we fail to perform. Says who? The message I hope you got from this video is that rights pertain only to a species for whom thinking is essential. There is no alternative. That means humans. Secondly, that, and this is the phrase that turned the lights on for me, rights are requirements for survival. I've only scratched the surface of this subject. I could debate for hours all the ramifications and all the various theories. There are hundreds of books that have been written on the subject by many different authors. But if you read only one, make sure it's this one. Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand.